One fall night in 1993, a gunshot echoed from a Chicago garage, leading to the start of a notorious and complex murder investigation. The cold September night in a quiet neighborhood in Bucktown was suddenly shaken by the sound of gunshots. The shooting took place in the garage of a modest two-story home owned by Robert Odebane, a local bar owner. Robert's bloodied body was found with 2 gunshot wounds, and his wallet and keys were missing. News of Robert's murder spread quickly through Bucktown and the surrounding area. Investigators immediately investigated the crime scene, but the garage where the gunshots were heard provided no clues as to what had happened. Robert's Jeep Wrangler was later found abandoned on a residential street but did not provide key evidence to help solve the case. What further complicates matters is the disappearance of Robert's girlfriend and business partner, Catherine Suh. Her whereabouts are unknown, and it is unclear whether she was aware of what had happened to her boyfriend. Interestingly, Catherine's younger brother, Andrew Suh, did not attend his college classes on the day of the murder. His roommate told investigators that Andrew had gone home to take care of family business and had not returned. How could this have happened? The family is from Korea. They consist of a mother, father, and 2 children. They live traditionally with values and strictness typical of Asian parenting. The head of the family, Ronald Suh, is the most traditional and can be very intimidating to his children. He has a military background and comes from an elite family, which may strengthen the aura of strictness he has, making his 2 children raised with love as well as strict education. Everything seemed to be going well for their family, until one day tragedy struck. Their eldest son had an accident and lost his life. This incident was devastating for Elizabeth, the mother of the children. Her husband demanded her to give him another son. In many Asian families, especially at that time, a son, especially the eldest, was more valued than a daughter. Elizabeth, who was in her 40s at that time, was doubtful whether she would be able to get pregnant again. However, she still followed her husband's wishes because she was determined to stay with her family and was always afraid of divorce. In order to get pregnant, Elizabeth tried everything, from fertility drugs to pregnancy programs. She finally got pregnant and gave birth to a boy named Andrew Suh. The family immigrated to the United States in 1976 and settled on the northwest side of Chicago. Catherine and Andrew were still children when their family moved from South Korea. With hard work and determination to succeed, the family opened a successful laundry business to support their young family. The Suh family never forgot the values they upheld from their home country. As immigrants, the family remained close. The children were taught the importance of respect and obedience within the family. However, their father's love was often considered harsh and strict, with high expectations for his children's behavior and performance. These values later played an important role in their lives. Andrew was very obedient, while Catherine was more rebellious. As she entered her teenage years, Catherine began to fight against the traditional Korean family values instilled by her parents. Her sense of rebellion began with little things like asking why questions and refusing her parents' demands. As she grew older, her urge to rebel grew stronger, causing her to lie and run away from home. Her lifestyle deviated from the expectations of her family's traditions. Katharina seeks freedom and independence, breaking away from their family's traditional culture, while her younger brother Andrew holds onto the traditional cultural values instilled by his parents from a young age, with a strong emphasis on family ties and respect throughout. Andrew's teenage years were a model child who helped out in the family laundry business and went above and beyond what his parents expected of him. He was his parents' favorite child, which caused disharmony in the relationship between him and Catherine. A tragic moment struck this family when Mr. Ronald was diagnosed with stomach cancer. His wife Elizabeth and son Andrew took care of him. During his last days, Andrew would prepare breakfast in his father's bed and help him with daily tasks, while his mother takes care of him all day long. They both tried their best to make him feel comfortable, knowing their time together was limited. As the eldest child, Catherine was expected to play a greater role in caring for her father. But she was nowhere to be found. She reportedly never came to see her father during his illness. Catherine may have felt that she could finally escape the demands of her family's conservative culture. After Ronald died, all the burden of raising the children fell on Elizabeth. Unlike her husband, Elizabeth was more patient, meticulous, and tried her best to understand her children. She gave Catherine freedom, even pocket money when she went out. Catherine, who was only 16 years old, she met a man who was 7 years older than her named Robert O'Debane at the gym. When she found out, Elizabeth didn't interfere much. Finally, everything seemed calm and went well. However, a few years later, a terrible event occurred. Elizabeth was brutally murdered in what appeared to be a robbery attempt. Andrew was terrified, but his sister Catherine, who was 18 at the time, did her best to calm him down and explain what had happened. Robert, Catherine's boyfriend, who had been a close friend of the Suh family for years, was also in the house. He helped Andrew through the shock and provided comfort and assistance. As police began to unravel the mystery of Elizabeth's murder, it became clear that the murder was personal. Who had the motive and opportunity to commit such a heinous act, and what was their intention? But unfortunately, the murder was difficult to solve, because everyone, including Robert, had a strong alibi. After Elizabeth died, Andrew, who was still a minor, was placed under Catherine's guardianship with $800,000 in insurance money obtained from his mother's policy. Catherine and Robert then worked to build a successful future for their family. They used some of their mother's insurance money to open a bar called Club Metropolis, which was a success and quickly became the talk of the town. Meanwhile, Andrew, a diligent high school student, finally received a full scholarship to Loyola Academy in Wilmette, Providence College in Rhode Island. There he studied economics and Japanese to prepare himself for a promising future. As Catherine and Robert's relationship grew more serious, the couple eventually decided to move in together. This decision had a significant impact on Andrew, who was still young and in dire need of a father figure. Robert, an old family friend, quickly became the new father figure in Andrew's life. Robert provides guidance and support as young Andrew navigates the challenges of adolescence. But despite their rapport, neither Andrew nor Robert could have anticipated the events that would shatter their lives forever. While in college, Andrew sometimes received calls from Catherine telling him about her relationship problems with Robert. One day, Catherine took Andrew to lunch and allegedly told him that Robert had treated her badly. And what she said next was a secret between the two of them. Catherine claimed that it was Robert who killed their mother, revealing that it was her idea, but she didn't expect Robert to actually do it. Catherine then told Andrew that she couldn't leave Robert because he would report to the police that Elizabeth's murder was her idea. But she was tired of being tortured by Robert. Hearing this, Andrew, who felt obligated to protect his sister, was immediately filled with anger. Seeing Andrew's anger, Catherine did not waste the opportunity. She proposed the idea of killing Robert. Unable to make a logical decision in an emotional state, Andrew agreed with Catherine and prepared to act. After Andrew returned home, Catherine told him to wear black and bring a change of clothes. Catherine also told him to get the gun that Catherine had prepared in the garage attic. Andrew waited for hours until Robert finally came into the garage. At that time, Robert was on the phone with his new girlfriend, while Catherine was at a pub's in Glenview, Illinois, also spending time with her own boyfriend. They both agreed to have an open relationship where they could date other people. Robert then received a call from Catherine telling him that her car had broken down and she needed his help. Before Robert could get the car out of the garage, the first shot was fired. Andrew then shot Robert again to make sure he was dead. After that, Andrew jumped into the Jeep, drove the Jeep, then left it on the side of the road, then called a taxi and ran away. Andrew was then arrested and asked to meet Catherine. Catherine was portrayed in media coverage as a seductive woman who manipulated her younger brother into committing murder. Dubbed the Black Widow, she left him days before their trial in Cook County by fleeing while free on bail. The court continued the trial in her absence and issued a warrant for her arrest. After the trial, Catherine was found guilty of armed robbery and first-degree murder. If she is caught, she will serve life in prison. So where is she? After escaping, Catherine continued her scheme in Hawaii. During this time, she convinced her new surfer boyfriend to buy her a luxury condominium. However, after her photo and profile were featured on the television program America's Most Wanted in January 1996, Catherine grew tired of running away and finally turned herself into the FBI in Honolulu in March of that year. Since then, he has been serving his life sentence in prison. The police heard testimony from Andrew and realized the situation. Andrew Suh had been conned by his own sister, who wanted Robert's insurance money of $250,000. Some people felt sympathy for Andrew, a man who had never committed a crime before. But it was still murder. Andrew Suh was sentenced to 80 years in prison. He was later reported to have behaved well in prison. Andrew did interviews and hoped to get a second chance. In January 2024, after serving 30 years in prison, Andrew was released from the West Illinois Penitentiary. He had completed a rehabilitation program required by state law. Along with his attorney, he was greeted by 6 supporters and appeared happy to leave prison to start a new life. Andrew is very grateful to a lawyer named Song Min Kim, who happily gives him a place to stay. Although the murder of Robert O'Debane has been solved, and the brothers have been convicted, Elizabeth's murder remains unsolved. For years, suspicions persisted about Catherine's possible involvement in Elizabeth's death. Andrew Suh also later stated his belief that his sister was responsible for their mother's murder, motivated by her desire to inherit her mother's life insurance policy. But no charges were filed against Catherine in connection with their mother's death. All the suspects gave convincing reasons, raising the question of whether the case was really a robbery that ended in murder. In recent years, authorities have re-examined evidence from the crime scene that had been collected previously in an attempt to identify the perpetrator of the murder. But they recently told the media that there were no new leads to follow up on from the existing evidence, and the case remains unsolved. Emotional manipulation within the family can be a very dangerous tool when used to force someone to commit a crime. Victims caught in this manipulation often do not have the freedom to refuse, because they are forced to feel that the act is an obligation or a sign of affection. That's all for this story. Don't forget to click like, share, subscribe, and comment on your opinion about this case. See you again in the next videos.